Never lay down, never give up. I am a fighter. I'm a fighter. I'm a survivor. Even if I fall, I'll be up again, 'cause I'm a fighter. I am a fighter. I'm a survivor. Never lay down, never give up. I am a fighter.
Happy Hump Day. It's Chris and Mark with the NW Exchange podcast, the only podcast you need to know about Bella Vista and beyond. Hope everybody's had a great beginning of your week. It's the middle of the week. We got some stuff to talk about, so we're going to go ahead and start talking. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. We've only got one viewer at the moment. It's probably, we did come on a little bit early. I'm seeing 4 now. Hello, viewers.
4, yeah.
Make sure you click the like button, share this video out. We got some great stuff to talk about. Obviously some election related stuff that has been, I guess, what would be the appropriate word? Evolving, Mark?
Yeah. I think you hit the nail right on the head. More questions than answers, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
But we did promise that we'd follow up with people on this ongoing topic. So
absolutely, and we've done our due diligence and probably got more follow up to do tomorrow with some other individuals. If you didn't catch our live last night and you're unsure of what we're talking about, let me go ahead and turn off the call-in number because we don't need anybody calling in just yet. We received notification by a public post on Nextdoor yesterday about a individual candidate, Donna Hutchinson, went down to vote. She was the second person in line to vote. She had some problems with the machine actually reverting her vote selection. So she was selecting a number 2 candidate on the ballot. and it was reverting the vote to the number one candidate on the ballot. She did this multiple times, brought it up to the people that were working at the county building, administrative building. And, basically they assisted her and said, well, you need to make sure you check the printout and, send her on her way. Mark, I'll let you take it from there, because after I notified you of this issue, I shared it with you. I was on break. We had a quick phone call, and you took some action, right? Because you're not shy of reaching out to the election commission. You did on election night when we ran that 4.5-hour marathon, hoping that election information would have come in quicker than almost midnight. But you reached out to the people that you have already been in contact with, and I'll let you take it from here, great sir. We are going to cut over to the chat screen. So if you guys have questions for either one of us, feel free to type it in the chat, and we will try to address those as we see them come in.
So yesterday we had a conversation I had with Donna and got more detail on it. And then I had taken the initiative yesterday to call the election commission. The gal that was running it was out tending to a family member because they were sick. My conversation with her was where there's some inconsistencies going on with the voting booths issues where people are pressing, the second candidate into reverting back to the first, vice versa. Are you aware of that? And multiple occasions have been going on. Yes, we are aware of it, and we have people involved, and they're going to calibrate the machines. So when she said that to me, my understanding is probably they're going to calibrate all the machines. Didn't get into too much detail. And after last night, we promised everybody we were going to follow up with them. So the first thing I did, I gave a call this morning. The gal that runs the commission down there every day and has people underneath her. I talked to her briefly. She said it was an isolated incident with one booth, which they caught yesterday. And so there was no calibration done on that specifically. It was removed off the floor and a new one placed in its place. You follow me?
Mm-hmm. So basically they said that we had a problem that we couldn't recover from. So we removed that polling unit and put in a new one.
Yes. So when I had that conversation yesterday, it was a situation when everything's being calibrated. So I figured they would calibrate every machine, right? Because they weren't aware of specifically what it is, but they had said that that's one machine. So they took it out of order. Not uncommon. They said it could have happened when the trucks delivered these polling machines. They bounce around and what have you. That's fine. I understand. Okay. That makes sense to me. I asked her the other questions that we discussed yesterday, the process for curing. There is no process for curing. Once the ballot is in there and you vote, and that final screen that says, are you okay with who you're voting for, to print, once you print that button and you review or don't review your final print off and submit it, it goes in before you leave, right? They feed it.
Right. They feed it into the tabulator.
Right. There's no way of telling who's who after that point. So basically what happens is if you don't check it and there's an issue with it, it's on you. So it brings it back to what you said yesterday. Do your due diligence, because quite frankly, there could be some issues. Yep. But we don't know the extent of it. We know it was happening. We can't confirm it. There's no way there's no curing process where you can go back through the system and find out where the issues were. So that's kind of disappointing in it. So I did have a few
but hold
more
on.
questions.
But wait a minute. So what you just explained is there was one machine that had an issue retrieving, or I guess accepting the ballots, so nobody could really even vote on that machine. But that's not what was reported, and that's not what we received. The
original issue that we had discussed about it was the situation where they were pressing the number or the candidate, and it was reverting to the other candidate. Well, the conversation I had this morning with the gal that runs it said the issue was the ballot wasn't feeding into the booth. So when you go to initiate and you go to the booth, you put the ballot in, right? And the way the arrow goes in, then it allows you to put the voting in. Well, we know for a fact that that wasn't the case in the situation that people brought it up because they were in the process of voting for those candidates. So we already know the ballot was already in the machine. You follow me?
Right. Yeah. You have to slide that in and then it takes you to the start. I think everybody is familiar with, like, you go in, you stand in line, you show your ID, you check in, they give you your little piece of paper, they have you sign your signature verifying who you are. And then at that point, you stand in line waiting on a machine to come open. And then you walk over to that machine, a person escorts you over. They're like, stick your ballot in, you stick it in.
Right.
And then they say, go with the on-screen instructions, and then they walk off, right? That's the process. So in that instance, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to even see what was on the ballot and select a person. But that's not what was reported. So that is not the machine that we are really inquiring about. That's a situation that, really, in my mind, it's not a concerning situation if a machine isn't accepting a ballot ticket because nobody can vote on that.
Right. So that's what I mentioned. That wasn't the issue because this person wasn't here yesterday. She's in there today, right? I had that conversation with the gal yesterday that was filling in for her. I explained to her what the situation was. Fast forward to today, the issue has been remediated. It was an issue with the ballot not going into. I said, that's not the information that was provided to us. It is a totally different situation. So I went through some more questions with her. I had some other questions I wanted to ask, and so I gave her a call back to try to get more detail on it. So I went back and got more detail on it, and the story evolved. Instead of being a one polling booth there at the administration building, it turned into four that they
and this was probably within a 45-minute time frame, right? Her story had basically changed on you.
Right. So whether she knew or someone else brought more information, I will never be able to know that, but we know that there was more than one. So there was four that they said that were being needed to be calibrated because there was other issues. So it wasn't just a ballot. So it leads me to believe that there was other issues like what Donna was experiencing. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know it could have been any number of things. We'll never know. But the fact of the matter is it could have went across all the voting machines. I will never know because unless you caught it when you were processing, when you got done printing it and looked at it hard, you're out of luck. And I would imagine most people probably don't do that, Chris, because they get to that last screen where it says, please look over your ballot to make sure that you have,
right. They do the confirmation of who you voted for up on the screen. But so that can still look right. But, and that ties back into my distrust of systems, right? But even I want to go back to the situation where you contacted them. So you contacted them just asking the same generalized question, but then you got a different technical issue and you're like, well, this story isn't lining up with what the information I received yesterday. So either A, she's unaware, or B, she's not fully, being transparent. And that's when you called back, you asked the question again and kind of elaborated on the situation yesterday. And then it's like, well, yeah, there was that issue. And so in addition to the one that was taken away, we had to calibrate other machines, which at this point, if you weren't transparent, I would, it could have been all the machines. I don't know how many they have in there right now. I've not been down to early vote. If you've been down there to early vote and you know how many machines or can guesstimate how many machines, it could have been 8. We don't know. But the fact that the transparency is lost, the failure to notify anybody and then putting the onus on you, the voter. Like I said, most people are they're blindly trusting the system because in a proper working election, right? Well, you shouldn't have to really be concerned about the accuracy of, what the machine is doing.
Right.
And some people, like you said, they're rushed from time. They're going in on their lunch break or they're going in before work. And they got to get out. They got to get it in and get out real quick. And so that's where, if you're not actually looking at the printout and validating that, something can go off the rails.
Yep. Once it's submitted and they walk out the door, there's no way to go back and figure out whose ballot that is, or so it's a lost ballot essentially. So we don't know how big of a situation is. Only the people know that, had these issues, would lead me to believe that they had the same thing happen with Donna had. So.
Right.
It just leads to more questions.
Well, and then the fact that they can't cure it, there's not a curing process when you know that there was a technical failure of equipment,
Right.
and there's one, they know it. It's documented that it happened. We know it. They know it.
So
they've made it. It's not conspiracy theory, people. This has been validated by the election commission.
Right. Right.
So why would you continue operating? Did you ask that question?
Yeah, the procedure in the place is to have it recalibrated. I heard that, in that number one, that machine, they removed that off the floor, okay, and put a new one in it. So obviously they probably tried to calibrate that and it just didn't work, because they did tell me on the other four they calibrated. So just to make sure that was working fine. I don't know if they found issues. They never said that. But I'm sure the reason why they're calibrating, because there was issues, people were complaining about it, right? It wasn't just a random four that they pulled. I've been out there. I bet you there's 15 or 20 voting machines out there at least, Wow. Someone could confirm that, but I would bet you there's a minimum of 15 out there, pretty close to that. So we'll have to get out and check that out. They're not Dominion voting machines. They're more voting machines from Election Systems Software, ESS. They're out of Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
So that's where we're at with it. The story, as far as the way the system works, you're out of luck. If you don't look at your ballot before you submit it, before walking out the door, there's no recourse for you.
So that's the biggest takeaway from this is everybody needs to get really, really involved with checking that before you put it in the tabulator. And the tabulator would be the box that you slip it in after you're done voting. Wendy says at the clerk's office, there's only 4 to 6 machines at that location. So I would say that would be 2/3 failure if they had to calibrate. At the
administration building, there's only 4 to 6 at the administration
4 to 6
building.
machines. And so if there's 6, that would be, and they had to calibrate 4 machines, that would be 2/3 failure.
That's
of those
worse.
systems. So that is kind of, I don't know, I would say that's kind of a high number right there, of potential. I'm not saying it happened on every ballot, but potential problematic ballots on day one. And so I think they did. I think they got out there around noonish, right, whenever they did the calibration, is what, if I remember properly.
Early afternoon. I don't know where they came from. The people that are working those machines are county employees. So that's what we know at this point. Again, it goes back to each person has to have just do their due diligence and when they vote to check the final screen. Then even after that, after they do the print, verify that's exactly who they want. And if it isn't, they need to go over to the people that signed them in and gave them the ballot and tell them and not leave until it's been rectified. Now, what they can do there is if there's a wrong name, they can void that out and they can give them another ballot and go back and move them to another voting booth.
Okay,
now,
there is the process if you are doing your due diligence as a voter to validate the information and it spits it out wrong, or something didn't go right, it reverted, and you notice it. That's why it's important to to look at the ballot when it's printed out. And if you notice something, there is a procedure in place for nullifying your ballot
Right.
and
So there's
getting
a-
another
it gives
one,
you-
right?
No more than 3 after that point. I don't see why you would need another one unless there's
Right. I
another
wouldn't use the
issue.
same machine. I could tell you that much, right?
Yeah. So what they do is they'll give you, I imagine they void the other one. They give you a new ballot and then they move you to another machine.
Okay.
So if you have an issue with that, you got one more swing after that. And after that, that's it. You're out, So,
yeah, I've talked to multiple people, because after yesterday's podcast, I received a few phone calls and stuff. And, people basically said, I really have never taken the time to look at what's printed out. That's something that I don't normally even think about. I just assume everything is properly functioning. And, so if you've never been in that situation where you've been in at the polling place and you've been like, why won't it let me try clicking over here? Why is this not accepting what I'm putting in? You probably would just blindly trust, a machine. Fortunately I ran through that years ago and I was like, I don't really I've never had a warm and fuzzy about using these machines. But it is what it is. This is what we have to use. Right.
Right. You had a bad experience with that too. So, I had the same conversation. I followed up with the commissioner, had these discussions about it, and the concerns people had issues with it, and we went through the same process. He was aware that this was going on. So
I just can't believe they wouldn't put out a statement, man. Encouraging people to do what we're encouraging people to do, and that's validate before you slip it in the tabulator, right? That at a minimum, if they've had some issues on day one, you would think that they would. I mean, that's called voter education right there. That's part of their duties, to ensure that people are their vote truly represents what they're voting for. So you think at a minimum they would have put out a social media statement on their Instagram or something like that. Hopefully somebody can reach out to them and say, hey, this might be a good idea given what happened on Monday. Just to remind people to check this.
Right. And the total votes yesterday, Chris, when I talked to the commission, there was a total of 355 votes. Okay. 191 came out of Bentonville, the administration building, and the 164 out of the election commission building over in Rogers.
Okay.
So, and Wendy was gracious enough to give us the numbers tonight.
Thanks, Wendy.
They didn't break it out for us, so it's a total of 386 votes. Of the 386, 214, I guess, were Bella Vistans. So it's pretty much the total it's about.
So there's only 214 Bella Vistans that voted today in the runoff.
Right.
Y'all, we got to pump these numbers up, man. Them are rookie numbers in this racket, y'all. You got to get out there and vote, man.
So today was 30 votes higher than yesterday, but still, you need to push. We need to push it a lot harder.
Invite your neighbor, invite your friends, offer people rides, do what you got to do. We need a good representative body to go and vote, right? We don't need this vote to be decided by 400 people in a city of over 30,000. Let's treat it like, election day and get out there and vote, man.
So, I followed up with the commissioner on this, got the information, told him exactly what happened, went through it. Then I also brought up the ballot box issue that we had in the general election at the Highlands and Centerton, primarily Highlands, what we talked about. I said we were covering that. We called out to the election commission. They didn't have that box. We really didn't get a straight answer what happened with that
situation with the box
church,
coming in or the vote. So basically the polling location coming in so late. I just want to read a couple of comments right here. If you want to pause on that moment for one moment. Ryan, hey, what's up, Ryan? Good to see you. He's our number one fan, man. Ryan and Wendy, those two are going to get free T-shirts whenever we launch the show, man. He says voting is such a controlled environment there really isn't an excuse for having poorly written software. We need more competition to push them to do better. And I agree, right? And Mark is going to talk about some of these things because, this is just through, a 30, 45-minute calls with the commission, we're able to like kind of decipher some of the information they're giving us and saying, you would think that this could be better, right? So go ahead and please continue, sir.
So each polling place, let's go back to the general election. The issue we had was Highlands up here and Centerton. Both those came in late on election night. Remember, 11:30, I think, is where we ended up with the Highlands polling center. I talked to the commissioner. There's one person that's designated to bring that to the election commission. So in other words, when the last vote is done in that Highlands or New Life, any of the polling centers, they run the report, right? And the responsibility is to get that in the information along with the thumb drive over to the election commission. So when we called that night, she said they're behind, and it wasn't a situation where they're behind because they were delayed somewhat because there was people there, right, still voting. They got done. The problem they had is the person they designated over there, and they didn't disclose who that person was. They brought the everything over except the most important thing was the thumb drive, because the thumb drive.
You had one job, man. You had one job.
So they have the ballots. They have all the ballots, and they do the ballots. They run those through, and the thumb drive matches up with it. So fast forward. They asked where the thumb drive is. They finally figure out he left it back, or she, whoever it was, left it at the church. Well, the church is locked up. They didn't have access to it. So then they took the hard ballots, right, and started processing them at the ministry or at. So
they started counting the ballots at the election commission building.
There's a machine. I guess they probably filter them through, but you're probably talking, I don't know, probably a few thousand. I don't know the whole total amount for that. We'll have to go back and look. But they had to manually do that. So they didn't have the thumb drive with them, right? So they didn't have access to the thumb drive. He didn't get it that night. So it came probably the next day. It might not have come the next day. I didn't verify that with him. I'll send him an email just to confirm that. If it was 2 days, or it was the next day. And they were able, I asked them, did that match up? It matched up. I also asked them, is there a stamp or a time stamp on the thumb drive when you open it up or process it? There's nothing there.
So let me break this down real quick. So we have a polling location box that came in with all the ballots. Right. The thumb drive was left behind. They had to open the box to get the data because they were like, well, go back and get the thumb drive. Church was locked. So we don't have a thumb drive to basically verify, data. So so we have a box showed up. Now my question would be is, obviously you had one job to do, and your job was to bring this. I mean, that's the most important job when the poll closes, right? Is to get this stuff over to the election commission. So one, leaving a thumb drive behind, you've delivered basically half of what you're supposed to deliver. My question would be, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Is there tamper evident seals on these election boxes?
That I don't know. Maybe I'll put another call.
Yeah, that's a question I would like to be answered, because at the end of the day, it is what it is, but because we can't go back and change that. We're in a runoff right now. But what I'm thinking about is justices of the peace, from my understanding, are the ones who put the election commission. They install these people in the election commission. But two, the election commission's charged with making the rules and regulations for how the elections go, and I'm sure that there's a legislative procedure through the justice of the peace, quorum court, or whatnot to have bodies of people. And if we have a JP watching, I did try to get Joe to to watch tonight so he could provide some information. We may have to reach out to him and talk to him directly on this. But I made a phone call. He wasn't available, so I'm just speculating at this point. But
right.
So there should be tamper evident tape on there, right? No timestamps, really? How do you have a forensic auditing processing if there's no timestamps, Mark?
Yeah, I agree. That's a big problem, and that's something we can talk to about people that are more experienced in doing that. They do have a key to get access to it. So somebody at that polling center had a key to the box. So
we have a box that possibly, I'm playing devil's advocate, possibly, could have been open if there's not a tamper evident seal on it, right? So that would have to be accounted for. But then on top of it, you got a jump drive with no timestamps.
Right.
That's out in the ether, right?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. I would say that this is probably ripe for fraud if somebody wanted to commit fraud. Would you come to that assumption?
Yeah, I would, honestly. Again, the person shows up, they sign their name, there's no stamp. They ask them what the thumb drive is, don't have the thumb drive. They take the ballots and manually or whatever, put it in the machine and start processing it, and not able to verify that. Anybody could go and mess with it, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no way of telling the thumb drive.
The possibility exists, right? Because you don't have those security controls in place, right? And that's kind of what we talked about last night, is if you don't have guardrails in, then can you really have do you have like the faith in the integrity of the whole process? And, tamper evident tape would be number one, right? That should be an easy thing to fix at really no cost, right? That's done. Right. And if that seal is broken for any reason, then, somebody's going to have to answer to that. But on top of it, the jump drive that's used on the system, which is basically a two-step verification, right? For that to go missing, I would call that like a sensitive item, right? Like if you've ever dealt with classified material, that stuff does not get left behind. Right. Period. Right. It's like, so I don't know, man. Yeah, so for that to go unaccounted for and missing, basically uncontrolled for multiple hours is problematic to me.
It's problematic and unacceptable. So at this point, I had more communication with the commissioner, and I asked him, I said, you've been doing this for 11 years, but have you ever seen it? Have you ever had an issue like this? Never.
Out of 11 years, nothing like this has ever happened.
Yep. He confirmed that with me. Never had an issue like this. It's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, I
feel like this is a bad episode of Scooby-Doo, man. like when do we come around and we got a guy in handcuffs and we pull the mask off and it was old man Jenkins? I would have got away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids.
It doesn't look good. I think
the optics of it don't look good at all.
No, the process needs to be refined. There's no doubt in my mind. Just looking from a 30,000-foot view,
knowing what we know, and we're just like flies on the wall at this point. With that, maybe dip down to get a little sniff of your burger,
Right. And the other thing I mentioned to him is the process. So there is no oversight process. They designate, like I said, one person at that polling station that's responsible for this duty. Okay.
Hey, we got a new subscriber, Randy Murray. Subscribe. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate the subscribe. That always helps out the channel. If you guys have not subscribed to our channel or liked our Facebook or this post, please do so now. That'll help us get out into the ether and help us grow our show.
So the other thing I mentioned to him, and I struggle with at one time, and I think, I don't know, I think Jerry might have said this. He said there was a sheriff's responsibility would go out there and oversee that process of getting that information from the machines and getting it down to the election commission in Rogers. So fast forward, I think we're leaving ourselves out for stuff like this to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, you really should have some oversight there. There's got to be some kind of time stamp. I mean, when they went back in there, they just signed off that they delivered it. There's no date stamp. There was no any more
Right. Well, it
explanation.
ties into like a chain of custody, right? I mean, like I said, if you've ever dealt with any type of sensitive or classified material, there are logs that you have to fill out when you check it out, when you leave with it, when you show up with it. You're establishing that chain of custody to say nothing has been tampered with this. It left on time, and when it arrived, untampered, right? That chain of custody is one of the most important things with any type of thing that is sensitive. And so if they're not doing that, I would hope that, hindsight's 2020, right? And I get that they've done this for years a certain way, but that's not an excuse to not evolve your procedures, to have those guardrails in place and establish a chain of custody, establish a 2 or 3 party verification system so that no one person has the ability to act nefariously.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So the other thing I asked him too, was there other issues with in Rogers and the Election Commission where they had those voting booths? As far as they didn't hear anything. So I'm assuming that there wasn't any issues there. I mean, it's the same company, like I said, out of Omaha. I haven't heard from anybody, but if anybody had any issues, love to hear from them if they had any issues out there or whatever it was at this point.
I did receive some feedback from some people saying that they went in and voted today. They did check their ballot. So that's what I'm encouraging people to do, obviously, is when you vote, validate the information before you slip it in the tabulator. That's the most important takeaway from what took place yesterday. The other issues
Absolutely.
I think are going to have to be addressed, the material failures in the whole process. Knowing it now, I would hope that, the powers that be get in there. I'm willing to sit down and advise people on things that they can do free of charge anytime. If I can be of service to say, just to look at a procedure and say, how can you actually harden this procedure? That kind of is in my wheelhouse at looking at procedures and policies and coming up with common sense policies that actually, make a better product at the end of the day. I'm willing to sit down and talk and advise anybody on that. I offer those services free of charge because I do live here. I care about what happens in this county, what happens in my community. And, feel free to pick my brain anytime on how you can harden this procedure to ensure that it has the utmost integrity. This is our voice. This stuff should be treated like it's going in and out of Fort Knox. And why you're just putting it in the hands of one person. We know anytime one person is responsible for something very important is usually when we see things go wrong. That's why you have multiple parties signing off and establishing that chain of custody.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have that timestamp from the time that the doors open in the morning, when the first ballot comes in to the last ballot, so you know when the starting time is and when the last person stamped off on it. Then when the person goes and processes it through the final ballot to get the running total, their hard copy, and another electronic one for when they access the thumb drive and remove it. Then when they go down and turn those in this case, they didn't have the thumb drive, but some kind of documentation, whether it's an e-sign that he's on site that, hey, I delivered this, e-sign it, send it, whatever you got to do, that it documents he got there at 10:23. The last ballot was done was at whatever, 8:15. He processed it at 8:26. You see what I'm going with?
Right. Well, the tamper evidence seal, when you receive the product, you're validating the tamper evidence seals aren't busted. Dude, I had to deal with urinalysis in the Army, man. And, there was a chain of custody and a process for that, ensuring that nobody, when that pee arrived, that, first off, the guy peed in the bottle. You had, we called them meat gazers, right? Luckily, I was the guy I took the training and I had to document it and all that.
Right.
But the guys that we would have, boy, you did not want to make me mad that week either, man. Because if we had a urinalysis, a pop-up urinalysis, I mean, you're on meat gazer duty, buddy. You're going to go. You got to watch the dude pee in the bottle, all right, man. But they would watch that guy hold the bottle over his head, walk out to the table. We would basically put that tamper evidence seal on there, right? Put it in the box. Once the box was full, right? We would catalog everything. Put the sheet in the box, put a sheet on the outside of the box, tamper evidence seal on the box, right? And then once that left, we would sign off the time that we left, where we delivered it to the lab, have to sign in. The guy would verify that the tamper evidence seal. Same process, right? And that was for pee. Okay? We can't do that with our ballots.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, looking at it now, it needs to be refined. It needs to be fixed. And people just don't have confidence in the system anymore. I can see where there could be major breakdowns and like you said, nefarious things happening.
Not saying that there is, right? And that's it. I want to make that clear. We're not saying that there is, but we're seeing material failures in the process where it could be, right? So if the potential exists for it, it needs to be corrected. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that nobody's ever mentioned it before, to be perfectly honest with you. This process has been in place for a while. Why nobody would ever mention that is just crazy to me, because that's the first thing I noticed when I mentioned that to him, and you noticed the same thing. Mm-hmm. And we're not really intimate in that election process and not there every day, but you would think that they would do that. I'm kind of blown away that why it wasn't done, for that matter. I mean, nobody's ever. So, I mean, at this point, I think it needs to be done. I don't know what they have to do to get that process in place, but it needs to be put in place.
Yeah, I think that would fall under the justices of the peaces to really, sit down with the election commission and work through some of these to harden the process, to improve it on top of it, right? Again, we've seen how much stuff that just doesn't add up across the country over the past few elections. Surely we can do better here in Northwest Arkansas, in Benton County. Surely we can do better.
Yeah, there's no doubt we can do better. And I talked to the commissioner, and I talked to the gal that's responsible for that, and I think they're good people. I think they love what they do, but there's a system breakdown there that needs to be corrected. And I think we can make it better in the future. If it doesn't get done, it is what it is. We did what we could do at the end of the day, but every JP out there, anybody in a political position should be all over this and should push for this.
Ryan says triple redundancy at a minimum, and I agree. Like I brought up the the Army P test, right? I mean, like, you've got a guy watching. I mean, it's a crappy job, right? But you got to do it to ensure the integrity of that test, right? And so if we can do that for P tests, surely we can do that for our elections, right? We can have systems and protocols in place to safeguard the integrity of what we're doing. And it's kind of disappointing that how many material failures we've heard about in 2 instances already. And people have a healthy distrust of the system because of all of the stuff that has been going on. And if you don't do what makes sense to ensure the integrity of it, it's only going to lead to more distrust in the system. I want to believe that we have free and fair elections. I really do, right?
Right.
I've always believed that, but over the past few years, I started to question. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, not an insurrectionist. I'm what did your brother put on the post? I'm a things aren't adding up and don't make census, right? That's really what it boils down to. If I can look at something and say, something doesn't add up, I'm not claiming to be a brilliant or smart or highly educated person. I'm a common sense person. I am educated to some degree, technically, and all that, and I do well for myself in life. But if I can look at something and use common sense and say, something's off here, surely people more qualified than me can.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, and one really needs to take a hard look at it. Sometimes you just, hey, that's the way it's always been, kind of deal, and
that's typical with most government places. We've always done it this way. Well, that doesn't mean you're doing it the right way in 2022 and 2023, right? You have to evolve as society evolves. We have a different demographic here now. We have people that are really ideologically charged and politically motivated. Those are all the elements that make the perfect, I guess, batter, if you will, if you're baking a cake, right? For problematic things to pop up. And if this is the first time in 11 years that something like this has happened, that even brings into more question, because this is a landmark election for Bella Vista. It's a very big election. If people don't realize, if they say, oh, well, it's just another election in Bella Vista, this is a major turning point for the city council, for the leadership of the community, and the future of Bella Vista. It really is, in my mind.
And like you said, everything that's going on across the country, it's even more imperative to make sure these systems are locked down and people trust they're getting a fair shake.
Yep, I agree. Well, that's our update for tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in, the ones that did tune in, and thank you for the people that are watching it after the fact. I do want to give a little update on the t-shirt situation. So my order, I ordered on Sunday. I believe I ordered on Sunday. Maybe it was, did I order on Sunday? I think I ordered on Sunday. I think I told you I placed my first order to verify the quality. And those shipped. So they should be here within the next 4 to 5 days. I'll let you guys know how the quality is. If I'm comfortable with it, we'll open up the store and let people order some merch to support the show and show your support. And we will, move along with.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you very much, Yerk. We'll move forward with getting some of those items out. Christmas is around the corner. I've already, gotten a couple of, hey, I'd like a shirt for Christmas. I just want to verify the quality's good, though. I don't want people buying stuff and then being disappointed with the quality of it. If I'll wear it, then this will definitely be the vendor. They're based out of North Carolina, so shouldn't be too big of a process to get them out here to Arkansas.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it, man. Seeing them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, man. So, hopefully I'll have a t-shirt to wear to the city council meeting, the next one when I hobble in. So we will open up the phone lines real quick. If anybody wants to talk with us or ask us questions directly, we will offer that for the next, 8 minutes or so. If you don't want to call in, always feel free to email us. We will respond to you as time allows. If there's anything that you would like us to start looking at or, inquiring about, anybody you'd like for us to talk to business owners, etc. We do have a preliminary lineup for after these elections complete of people that we are going to follow up with, people that we are going to interview, venues that we will attend. And so we're looking forward to getting this election period of our life out of the way for at least a couple of years. It's been draining, man. It's been draining.
Yeah. You're going down rabbit holes sometimes to get information, but you know what?
I think the information's valuable. It's education. It's valuable. This is, obviously this was a learning point for some people, and that's why I keep on kind of trying to reinforce it. Verify that ballot. 1, get out and vote. 2, verify the ballot before you put it in the tabulator. And 3, take a friend to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. We need a bigger turnout. I mean, it's 355 the first day. What was it? 385 the second day between both places, and we need way more than that.
Yep.
So.
Like I said, these are rookie numbers in this racket. We live in a town of 30,000 people. plus.
Well,
you know.
and that's what concerns us, because the runoff election is not going to give the biggest turnout, so it's even
Right.
more important to get people out. So I think what you said last time was 10% of the regular general election
Yeah.
last go around.
I
So
think it's
that's
roughly
scary to me.
10%. So
Yeah,
it could definitely be decided by a handful of people.
yeah, which is unfortunate. That's
Yep.
why people need to make the time to get out and vote.
Well, I know
I mean,
I've been doing my due diligence to notify people that I'm friends with, people that I live on my street. I talk with them. I talk with my neighbors, and I know that I have good faith that they will get out and vote. I've received confirmation of some people actually going out and voting,
Good.
and so I'm doing my due diligence. There were some phone calls flying around today. Again, I think my wife received like 4 or 5 phone calls from 2 candidates, voicemails and the whole 9 yards. Kind of redundant, if you ask me. Maybe somebody had an auto dialer that went off the rails. I don't know, but there was one voicemail left, which if you didn't get the voicemail, then you probably won't know what I'm talking about. But if you did get the voicemail, it was from one of our mayoral candidates. And man, I just got to say, like, if you're going to record something to play on the phone, don't be in the bathroom yelling into the kitchen, okay? Because like the audio quality was very poor on this, but I'm joking. I have to throw in them little jokes every now and then, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
You have to wonder as well, if the runoff has such low attendance, why don't we eliminate the runoff and go off to the general election? Many states do that already. Well, and so to that comment, I would say that's where I think that this archaic rule of you have to get, a certain percentage above the other candidates to be or it goes into a runoff. I think that rule right now is probably like what I would probably focus on if I was in that capacity, because in a 3-way race, right, you got one person basically pulling a percentage of votes away, right, from that. But if the percentage is high enough to make a determination that, okay, this guy won the most, right? Like if that, like, could you do a spread of 100 or 200 votes or 300 votes? I don't know what the number is, but what I'm saying is it should not be percentage based. The numbers that I saw on election day when those came in, it was definitive to me who the people's choices were. It was.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we got to get rid of the 50+% and the 20% spread between the first and second candidate. I mean, it's just
that just doesn't make. I don't know. That just leaves it open. It leaves it open for I get a do-over, I get a mulligan, right?
And
then you run into situations like this, and on top of it, turnout is abysmal on a runoff.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying, and more cost is involved with doing it. So. People in the legislation and the representing the House or in the Senate have to look at this and get with it, man. Change it.
Well, and then on top of it, if you like the curing thing, when you asked about what is the process for curing these, when there was an identified technical issue, and they were like, there is no process for it, just is what it is. You have to accept it for 4 years. I'm not down with that, man. I'm not down with that. That doesn't sound right to me at all,
So how I envision this, and people might laugh about it, when that issue happened, I believe they should have been cornered off. Every machine should have been calibrated all over again. If it took an hour or 2 hours, whatever it may be, have those people go to the other.
But it goes further than that, right? I mean, like I think they told you the process was what? They roll the machines off the truck, they set the machines up, and that's it.
So the machines are down in the election commission down in Rogers, so they have to send them up to Bentonville, right? Got
to drive them in, building. Truck them in, right?
Yeah, they drive them in on a U-Haul or whatever it's another company, but they bounce all over the place. So they, once in a while you'll have issues with it, from what I'm being told, and that's they go through the calibration process, right?
But you would
So-
think that at the opening of polling day, right? Because obviously you have people coming in and cleaning and stuff like that, janitors, and people bumping stuff and moving stuff around while they're cleaning and sanitizing the area after they're done, right? Wouldn't you think that part of the procedure for opening the poll every day would be to calibrate the machines, verify the machines are operational, and then open the poll?
That would make sense to me. I know they did the calibration. I think it was probably a few days or a week prior to this election, early voting part. But yeah, that makes sense to me. I
Procedurally,
don't
it
know.
makes
I mean,
sense, right? That because you basically
If
have
there's only
verified that
six-
the units are operational. You did your due diligence to calibrate
Well,
them.
here's my problem, man. This is what Wendy just said. If there's only six there, six voting booths, and four of them were
Faulty, needed to be
Faulty.
recalibrated.
that's a problem, man. That's a huge problem.
Right.
You're
Well, if you
averaging
look at the day
40
number,
probably for each
day
booth.
one numbers on top of it, right? Then the potential for
Each of those booths had 40 people, approximately. Well, not 40. It would have been probably 25 to 28 people in each of those booths. So if four of them were shoddy, do the math.
right.
You know? It's
Well, it's 2/3 that could
28
potentially be faulty ballots.
So the total votes on those four would be 112, and just say half of them didn't check after they printed it off, and there was an issue. That's 56 votes right there, right? Technically speaking.
Yep. That's more than enough to.
I think we
Display
should
it.
set up a poll and ask people when they went out and voted, when they got to the final screen where it says print, just confirm your choices and print. Have a poll like a.
I think
a
we
poll
need to do an
see-
informational video, just like a little 2-minute. This is what you should be doing when you go and vote. Period.
Yeah, I know that, but I want to know how many people didn't look at after it printed off because they confirmed it on the final screen to do the actual print off to confirm that they had the right.
Right, and then they
individual.
click, okay, that looks good on the screen, print.
Right.
I'm
And
walking
didn't look
over
at-
it, but I always look at it. Like I said, I have that procedure in place where I take a sample ballot, I mark on my sample ballot, and then I'm at the polling thing. I'm looking, yep, because there, especially like on the general election, there was a ton of issues on there, right? So I wanted to make sure that like what I put on my ballot, so I'm doing that right. But then I printed it off and I stood there, and the guy, he's like, "Are you done?" I'm standing there. I'm verifying, dude. Right. Then I walk
bet-
over to the tabulator.
If I was a gambling person, I would say half the people aren't looking at them after they come out because they've already confirmed them on the final screen before they went to the print. You follow me?
Yeah.
Do I think that's right? No, but I believe half of those people didn't stop.
Well, like I said, they're
A,
rushed.
probably
They're rushed.
Yeah, they're probably at lunch break and had to go back to work or any number of things going on, school, daycare, whatever it may be, man.
Got groceries in the
they-
car.
Right. They looked at the screen and before they printed it off just to verify. And we don't know what happened after. I mean, it could have had issues. It could have been a glitch right after that too. We'll never know, unless you looked at it and verified that there was an issue. So we know there was issues. We just don't know the extent of those issues.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue to monitor, the interwebs and keep you guys up to date with the things that we see and the things that we investigate. As always, we appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys watching this live or even after the fact. And that's all I can say is we love you.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate everybody. Have a good night.
All right. Catch you later.
Take my hand, walk this road together through the storm, whatever way.